Hey, welcome back once again, Knicks fan. This is the perfect time to do a player profile on RJ Barrett. We want to summarize the season that he had. The reason why it's the perfect time is because he actually recently did an interview on JJ Redick's, I guess, podcast or YouTube show. I'm not sure what it was, and gave us some little insight into some of the things that happened, not much into the season, but a little bit about the season and also about how he feels about the organization. But first of all, we want to do a quick summary of how he played this season and some of the things that he really needed to improve on, and then we'll see if we can come up with a grade for RJ Barrett. There's not going to be a good numeric system for grading RJ. I think it's going to be sort of on a curve. It's going to be on a curve with him, and this is going to be something that's going to be very subjective from my standpoint. I am looking at his performance, and then that's going to inform, how what grade I give him. However, there's no systematic approach that I'm using to calculate his grade. All right, before we get into it, please like, subscribe. Also, feel free to comment below. If you have any comments, any questions about the video, just feel free. Just put it down below. I'll be more than happy to respond. I'm really trying to get people to engage more, and unfortunately, it's something I've really struggled with. I just haven't really gotten a lot of engagement. Some of the videos I've gotten a few engagements where people make comments below, and I'll respond usually, but I haven't gotten a lot of engagement on my videos in terms of people reacting to it. At least not on the YouTube page, right? And so, so if you guys can, please feel free to engage, talk. Either you guys can banter amongst yourself down there, or just ask me any question. Whatever comment you make, I promise I'll be more than happy to respond to it, right? And again, like I said, please subscribe. I'm trying to also increase the number of subscribers that I have. If you subscribe, you will be notified every time I have a video coming up. Okay, without further ado, let's get into a season review for RJ Barrett. So RJ Barrett had an up and down year this year. And the thing that was really interesting was he actually shot 44% last year from the field, but this year he shot about 40.1%. So he took a step backwards from that standpoint. So there were some good, and there was some slight good in RJ Barrett as the season went along. Some really good things we saw, but then overall, for the season overall, I kind of felt a little disappointed with his performance overall. Now let's start with the good. The good thing that we saw with RJ Barrett was, when it was clear that Julius Randle just could not handle the roles and responsibilities as the primary playmaker, mostly because of a lot of the pressure that he was under, mostly because of the fans, and it's just he's found it really tough playing in this market, and so it was a lot of pressure for Julius, and also like we've also talked about how Julius, how he makes plays for for his teammates. Like I said in previous videos with Julius, if you notice, he gets a lot of open jump shots for his teammates, like open threes for his teammates. But you rarely see Julius Randle find his teammates for like an open layup. A lot of these great playmakers, they find their teammates a couple of times, like underneath the basket, get them easy buckets, right? Or even like get them rolling to the rim for an easy bucket. A lot of the great playmakers or primary playmakers, they're able to do that. Not all of them are, but some of the really good ones are the ones that actually are able to carry their team and and basically carry them into the postseason and give them some success. But so that's where RJ comes in. We were able to see that RJ can actually fill that role, given the fact that Julius really struggled with it. Not only can RJ find teammates in the perimeter, but we saw that RJ Barrett can actually find teammates in a paint, whether it be for lobs, so that's an easy basket usually for either Obi Toppin, mostly for Mitch Robinson. He has a connection with Mitch Robinson, but as the season went along, we kind of also started to see he likes playing with Obi Toppin, and he was able to find Obi Toppin a couple of times on the half-court sets, right, which was good. But also that, R.J. Barrett would also have to be. There were times as the season went along when he took over playmaking responsibilities. He did get a bit tunnel vision, and as the season went along a little bit, so that wasn't that great to see. But hey, we've been giving him a lot of slack, so why not give him a little slack on this one too? He's only 21 years old, and hopefully he learns, watches the videos, and sees what's happening. So that was the good with RJ Barrett, the fact that we've realized that he can actually be a primary playmaker. So the bad I kind of touched on a little bit was the poor shooting. I kind of thought he turned the corner last season and thought he was going to maintain that shooting percentage or actually improve from that, but he actually took a step back. So he went from shooting 44% last year to basically 40.8% or 41% this year. And so that was a very big disappointment. And that was part of the reason why we struggled. And I think some part of the issues with that was it felt like, I don't think he put in the same amount of work. This is all speculation. I don't know. However, I do think this is true. I don't think he put in the same amount of work shooting in the off season. And then also as the season began, I don't think he put in the hours that he needed to do shooting, after practices or, before games, after games, whatever it might be. He just did not put up enough shots for him to basically to have a good shooting season. Last year, I believe that he had a good shooting season because honestly, I think because of the pandemic, there was nothing for these guys to do but to work on their game and shoot and get hit the gym, right? That's really all they had to do. And they did that, and we saw the proof, right? The proof was in the pudding, so to speak. And so he shot pretty decent last year from the field. Was for a second year player, that efficiency was good to see. But this year he shot poorly from the field, and I just had a feeling just the preparation for the season just was not there. Whether if it might be shooting. He was focused on the defensive end. We did see some good defense from him the first half of the season, but the shooting and the offense just wasn't there. He just shot poorly during the first half of the season. He played 70 games this year. The first 36 games, RJ Barrett only shot 40% from the field, right? And so, honestly, I think that was the truth. I think, there was something to that, the fact that he wasn't preparing, he wasn't ready for the season. I think it was true because he even had the coach calling him out early in the season. The coach essentially said that, there's no trick to this, that if you put in the work and you put up shots, you're going to see the, you're going to see the improved performance in the games, right? And so he said, what is that saying that the coach uses? I guess something about the magic is in the work or something like that. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's something along those lines. It's all about the work, the preparation you put in. And so there's no way you can tell me if RJ Barrett prepared for the season and he put up a ton of shots that he was going to shoot 40% from the field. I just don't believe it. And so he's not, I don't think he's that poor, or that much of a basket case in terms of his mechanics and like discipline and his shooting, that if he basically put it into practice, he's not going to shoot well. So it leads me to believe that he just wasn't ready. He did not prepare. He did not put in the work that he needed to put in. A lot of people don't like to hear this. A lot of fans don't like to hear this because everyone believes RJ Barrett is a very hardworking kid and he's dialed in. And, honestly, he's a 21-year-old kid, right? And it's like everyone is just signing all these great attributes to him, which is good. And I think there's a lot of truth to it. But I don't know if he's basically all basketball all the time like everyone thinks he is. And he's putting in work in the gym like all the time, like putting up a ton of shots. There's no way he's putting up shots the way he needs to be and shooting 40%. I just don't believe that. And I would, and honestly, you guys should not believe that either. If he's putting up that many shots, in practice and he's shooting 40% from the field, then you guys should be very worried. That's just my belief. That's just what I think. If that's the case, we should all be very worried. But I think, he has a decent work ethic. I'm not saying he's a total basket case in terms of work ethic, but I don't think he puts in as much work as he need to put in. But like I said, we saw that in his performance during the season. That's why he shot only 40% from the field in October, November, December. January, February, I think he shot about 43% from the field. I think that was about 21 games, and then in March and April, he fell off again. His shooting fell off again. He finished the season March and April shooting about 40% from the field again, and then on top of that, his defense also fell off. That was a little disappointing to see. The good thing about his defense first half of the season, in October, November, and December, he was playing really good defense, and also in January he actually played pretty good defense. But then, as he decided to take over, when he started taking over as the primary playmaker, his defense just fell way off. And so maybe you can also blame some of that on the coach constantly playing him about 40 minutes a game. If you need these guys to play both ends of the floor, especially at the pace you want them to play, and with the same energy you want them to give on both ends of the court, I think you can't play them really. You can probably really play them maybe like 32, 33 minutes max, right? And but that's not what's happening. The coach played him like close to 40 minutes a game, and and so I think that it kind of took a toll on his effort on the defensive end. And I think part of it too was I guess he maybe he has to do that. I've never played professional basketball, so I don't know what it feels like to play 40 minutes a game on both ends of the court. I don't know what that feels like. However, it's I think he probably could do it, but he obviously felt like he doesn't need to do it. Maybe he felt like he had to pace himself, and so the defense wasn't there to close out the season, and so so it was, like I said, it was a very up and down season for him. Another really good thing about R.J. Barrett this season was his ability to get to the rim and also get to the free throw line. I want to say, in second half of February, March, and April, we started realizing, okay, no one can actually keep this kid out of the paint. He can get to the paint at will. And then on top of that, he started, especially March and April, he started getting a lot of calls. And so he was able to get to the line a lot more, and so which was good. But like I said, he did finish the season shooting poorly from the field, and also struggled shooting from the free throw line this year. Towards the end of the season, he also kind of showed like he struggled a little bit. He did improve it overall. As the season went along, the free throw shooting did improve, but overall, the free throw shooting was a disappointment this year. And so as you see, there's like 71% from the field, right? And so it was, it's a very up and down season for R.J. Barrett. Like I said, there was some good, but there was also some bad. So overall, in my opinion, like I said, there were some good things that I saw in terms of him being a primary playmaker, and also him getting to the basket at will. And then in good stretches, in the middle of the season, he was able to finish pretty well at the rim. Aside from that, it was overall, I just felt like overall it was a disappointing season for RJ Barrett. And if I had to give him a grade, I actually would give him like a flat C, because it's like, honestly, he just had an up and down season. I already explained why. I would give him a C if I had to give RJ Barrett a grade. And so now let's turn to the interview that he gave with JJ Redick. There's a couple of things that that kind of stood out to me in that interview. They did ask him about Tom Thibodeau, and he has a good relationship with Tom Thibodeau. And the one thing that came to mind with that was RJ Barrett, obviously the organization haven't done a great job setting him up for success. However, at least he has a commitment from the organization. They do show some commitment to him. And a coach likes him and shows commitment to him, and he is a talented kid and will end up being an all-star basketball player, hopefully. However, RJ Barrett, if you look at his numbers hasn't bared that out yet. I mean, that's why I've always said in my videos, he gets snubbed on a lot of these on a lot of lists, top 25, under 25. He didn't make the all rookie team. So it's tough, right? And I think the biggest problem for RJ he needs to really work on is his shooting and finishing. It's no secret. The reason why he gets snubbed and he gets disrespected is because, dude, you can't finish. You can't. You're shooting 40% from the field. It's your third year. You're shooting 40% from the field, and you don't finish very well at the rim. You show stretches where you were able to do it. But it was only I think it was like a 3 week stretch out of like a whole season. So from basically from October, end of October all the way to, let's say, from November all the way through March. That's how many months is that? November, December, January, February, March. 5 months. Out of a 5 month stretch, you were only able to show that you were able to finish well at the rim. Like I think out of that 5 month stretch, it was like 3 weeks. You showed the ability to finish at the rim, and then it fell off towards the end of the season. And so, what are we to believe? So that's the reason why he gets snubbed, and he really needs to work on his efficiency. He desperately needs to work on his efficiency, and if this team needs to have a chance at being remotely decent, um, he needs to improve his efficiency. Look, if we move on from Julius Randle, right, and I think it'll be a good thing for us to move on for him, mostly because you get the better efficiency and better impact from Obi Toppin, in my opinion. So that will help R.J. Barrett. Right now, R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle are volume shooters, but very low efficiency. That's what's really, that's what's dragging the team down. I mean, people need to just keep it a buck. R.J. Barrett is a terrible shooter, terrible finisher, and Julius Randle is a terrible shooter, terrible finisher. And so the combination of those guys make up about, I think they make up something like 40%, close to 40% of our offensive production and attempts. It might be even more than 40%. But they make up a large chunk of it. But they're so inefficient that it just doesn't help us out. It does us no good, right? Because they're so inefficient. And so now, if we basically, I think it helps if we swap Obi for Julius. It does help us a little bit. It does help us a lot more because you can get that, I believe, with Obi Toppin, you can get 20 and 7. And that 20 point is going to be a very efficient 20 points. That 20 points is going to be probably between 52 and 55%. Whereas Julius Randle was giving you 41% this year. So, but the 41%, don't get me wrong, the 41% we saw from Julius this year, well, I'm not going to say it was an aberration because he was carrying a team. He had the whole load on his back. And if he comes back and they give him the same load, I think he's going to have the same result. He's going to be low efficiency and high turnover, so it's not going to work either. But I guess the point I'm just trying to make is if R.J. Barrett comes back next year shooting very poorly from the field, I think the New York Knicks are going to struggle again, right? Because he's going to be the primary playmaker and the primary decision maker. And if you're shooting poorly from the field, I think that's going to have a lot of impact on the decisions that you make. Is going to get to your head, and you're not always going to make the right decisions all the time, right? You're also going to start passing up good shots, especially once we start losing and you're just shooting really terribly from the field. And then at that point next year, he's going to be the man, right? He's going to be the guy, the primary playmaker. There may not be a Julius, or if there's a Julius is going to be more off ball. It's going to be on you now, and so he needs to improve that efficiency if the New York Knicks are actually going to be, a much better team next year. I think they'll be slightly better if they swap Obi for Julius because you get more efficiency for that 20 points, and it does help R.J. Barrett too. However, R.J. Barrett does need to work on his game and work on himself as well. Now, that was the one thing I picked up on that. Basically, the commitment. It seems like when he talks about his relationship with Coach Thibodeau, it shows like there is a commitment from the coach to R.J. Barrett, right? R.J. Barrett, there has been stretches, I think last year, even maybe a little bit earlier this season, where the coach would sit him in the fourth quarter, especially down the stretch, if he was shooting really poorly. But as the season went along, you didn't see that really anymore. The coach would always have R.J. Barrett in the game in the fourth quarter, regardless of how he was shooting in the game, right? And so that was the one thing I saw. The other thing I did notice was when he made a comment about during the timeout when he hit the game winner, and during the timeout he wasn't paying attention during the timeout, and he didn't think he was going to be in the play. He thought like they were doing offense defense that he was going to sit, so he wasn't paying attention because he thought it didn't apply to him. And so, when they told him, like, as everyone went onto the court, he wasn't on the court yet. Everybody was like, RJ, come on, let's go. And so, it was just, he wasn't aware, right, that he was supposed to be on the court. And the one thing it kind of showed me is like, hey, it's a very long season, and the 48 minutes, I guess, is a very long game, too. NBA game is very long, and the season is very long. And these guys, the focus, sharpens and, also gets really fuzzy at times in the season. However, I would like to think the great players. I don't know any of the great players personally. I don't think I've studied them well enough. But from some of the things you hear about the great players, the players that actually that are able to carry their team, they don't have that kind of stuff. They don't have their focus waning or losing focus. That doesn't happen. They're always engaged. And so there is, obviously showed a lack of engagement, at least at that point in that game, especially when the game is on the line. You would think R.J. Barrett is engaged, but he clearly showed and revealed that he was not engaged. And again, he's 21 years old. I don't want to judge him harshly. I mean, I remember when I was 21 and I wasn't the top of anything. I wasn't like creme de la creme in anything, and this kid is playing for the NBA. In terms of basketball talent, what is that like? 1%, whatever it might be, of all. But anyway, so he's a very talented kid. However, to be the man on an NBA team and to be able to propel your team into the playoffs, those kinds of players are engaged, and clearly R.J. Barrett was not engaged during that game, at that point in that game. And so that was, it was interesting to hear that. I'm not going to say if I was disappointed by it. I'm not sure what to think about it because I just don't know enough about players and their focus throughout the long season. But I would like to think the great players are always engaged and focused, right? And so that definitely wasn't a good look on his part. Then the other thing he talked about that was really the most important thing he talked about that I really took notice of was when he talked about how he compares himself against Ja and Zion. And with Ja, he really talked about how that team set Ja up for success and how they kind of like set everything up for Ja Morant. They knew they were going to draft him. They shipped off Conley, set the team up for him, and gave him the keys from day one, right? And from that standpoint, I kind of agree with RJ. It's true. They knew they were getting RJ Barrett, but yet then they went and got a bunch of, they also went and got basically some veteran players, free agents, and a bunch of forwards. Like they got Marcus Morris. I remember we got Portis, and then we also got Julius Randle. And at that point, then they're basically essentially taking the ball out of R.J. Barrett's hand, right, and putting it in the hands of Mark. I remember Marcus Morris, and also Julius Randle were the primary playmakers during that season. And so that was the one thing. And then year two, when he came back for year two, basically they put the ball in Julius's hand as well, and R.J. Barrett was off ball. And then year three, they essentially did the same thing. And so I kind of understand and I agree with RJ that you have to, if this is what you're gonna do, you're gonna draft this high in a draft. You gotta give the keys to the young man. You just have to, and you want to do it as early as you can. So I think a lot of what this organization has constantly done is. And we see it with the last regime that did the same thing. It's like they're always, basically blocking the lottery picks that they have from developing. And I'm not, they do that because they're worried about their job security. And so they're trying really hard to show that, like, that they're doing a good job. And it's because, and I think a lot of the reason why was because they made such a big mistake with that Kevin Knox pick. They felt like they made a big mistake with it, maybe. And, well, I'm not sure if they felt they made a big mistake, but definitely Fizdale was under pressure, right? They had a terrible season when the Knox's first year. Then the second year, they drafted R.J. Barrett, and so during that second year when they drafted R.J. Barrett, I guess they just felt so much pressure. They also brought in a bunch of other, which didn't make it in hindsight. It didn't make a lot of sense to bring in all those veterans and then put the ball in their hands. It's when you had all these young guys that you're trying to develop, right? And so it just wasn't a very good move. It's not a very focused approach to building a basketball team. So you got to pick what you're trying to do, right? You can't have two visions and trying to execute in both visions, right? So you can't basically say, okay, we have these veterans and we're going to use them to make the playoffs, and then at the same time we'll see if we can develop these young guys. It doesn't work that way. I think it's misguided to think that it ever could work that way. If you have a young guy that you draft, that's a lottery pick. If either you put the ball in his hands and try to develop, or not, or just move in a different direction. And so for that, I definitely agree with R.J. Barrett. That could I think that's gotten in his way of development. And then he also talked about hoping he does sign that, he's able to sign an extension this summer. So that's going to be really interesting. So now you have this guy, R.J. Barrett. You drafted him with the third pick overall, and you really haven't put the ball in his hands. So you don't even really know. You don't even really know if he's worth the full max extension that you may have to give him, right? Because you haven't seen him produce on a consistent basis. I mean, like I said, we've seen some good stuff from R.J. Barrett, and I still hope he becomes like an all-star player. I think we're better off putting the ball in his hands over Julius going forward. However, it's not clear he's going to be an all-star caliber player. He's shooting 40% from the field. I don't think people understand that. That's not taking you to the playoffs if he's the primary playmaker, if he's the top gun. That's not happening. Just to make it even more, so it can make it more real for you guys, so you guys can see what's going on. I ranked all of the players by win shares. R.J. Barrett was ranked 8th on the team when it comes to win shares. He was ranked 7th in PER. And the reason why that is because his efficiency is so low. His efficiency is ridiculously low, right? And so, and then even if you look at my player impact ratings that I have here with the defensive factor, that's actually better for him. He moves up to 4th. However, he shoots basically 40% from the field, and then when opposing players that he's guarding, they shoot, I think, normally 43% against him. So 43%. So right off the bat, he's a negative. He's a drag to the team on the floor, and it's kind of crazy to say that, but it is the truth. He is a drag because, he shoots worse than the opponents that he faces in general every night. He does. He's less efficient than the opponent every night. And so that's something that's going to be a struggle, and it's like a truth that we all need to struggle with and like just kind of swallow and make sure that he does, and hopefully not make sure, we hope that he improves his efficiency, over the summer, going into next year as well. I hope he works on it. But so that's pretty much what I have about this, guys. What do you guys think about that interview? Comment below. What do you guys think about R.J. Barrett, his performance this season? Like I said, I gave him a C, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does come next year. Please like, subscribe, and also comment below. Thank you.